Hello, my name is Blake Baxter, and I'm the Media Relations Coordinator and Sports Information Director at Eureka College. Today I'm joined by Nick Mackall, the head coach of the Eureka College volleyball team, and we're here to catch up a little bit on volleyball and life in general. Nick, I know you've said you've had a shoulder issue lately, and looks like you got a lump of ice on it right now. But aside from that, how have you been, and what have the past few months been like for you?
Blake, thanks for having me first. The last couple months, it's been what it's been. That's the best way to put it. Honestly, I mean, the best analogy, that I keep telling my girls, honestly, and I've even learned through this. We're all in the same boat. With the COVID-19, we're just all experiencing different storms. At this point, mine just happened to be different. Because of the shoulder issues I took on last fall. I had labrum surgery done 3 weeks ago. Initially tore it right before conference started in September. So the issues kind of just been lingering. And the fact that Illinois is at a place that I could start to do this and recover back when I had operation in May at this point is very fortunate for my timing, honestly, because it can help me get back and hopefully have me somewhere at full capacity towards the end of this fall. A few of my athletes know the same pains. One just had the same procedure done actually earlier this fall, and then another did the year before. And I've known kids, and with the amount of mileage that shoulders take on in volleyball, it's becoming a more common injury ultimately through the sport, which is unfortunate.
Well, Nick, one thing I've learned about you over the past year is how passionate you are about volleyball. And I know you normally be out at tournaments every weekend. So how have you been staying engaged in the sport during this time?
Yeah, I just have one of my kids texting me right off the top of that question too. The biggest thing for me specifically that's been a struggle is, staying engaged with the sport. As far as how much inactivity there's been in the last 3 months, you're talking about, on my perspective, where I'm also coaching club, we were supposed to play in Louisville, Kentucky this weekend
Mhm.
with the team I'm training. 2 weeks after that, Orlando, for the AAU national championships. And all of that got put on hold, fortunately, for the safety of myself, but also the safety of the kids and the families that were involved. Um, the biggest thing right now for me is, obviously keeping the kids engaged has been a big challenge. But the biggest thing that I've been taking care of for me personally is how am I getting better, as a coach? How am I being a better servant to the volleyball community at the end of the day, And we're lucky enough here in central Illinois that volleyball is the queen in the fall, as far as how competitive it is in high schools and even more so with college lately. And I'm excited that I have this opportunity here at Eureka to build upon that brand and make it stronger ultimately, especially with the challenges we've faced like with COVID-19.
Speaking of recruiting, I know you've had a big recruiting class you've been lining up for months now. Could you tell us a little bit about this class you've been putting together?
I think the best way to sum up this class right now, it best describes the type of program that we left the year with. And I'm not talking physically speaking, Blake.
Mhm.
The biggest thing that was missing when I came into Eureka back in 2019 was getting kids excited about the game again, and it's not just the excitement about the game that matters, it's the excitement and really the zeal for the kids that they're playing with, and building relationships within our community at Eureka College. So for me personally, this first class was ultimately finding those kids that could help build upon that we helped establish with the 7 returners we had from the previous leadership here at the program, but also to find kids that would help, if not make us stronger on the court, make us stronger in other areas. We've got a couple kids coming in right out of the gate that I expect not just to make us better competitively, but to also play this first year in 2020. But that's not the priority. for me. And it's not the priority for these kids. It's about getting in here and making a difference for themselves personally. And I think we've got the right fit so far.
That's great to hear. And last year, you mentioned, was your first season here, your first season as a college head coach. So what was it like for you transitioning from being an assistant to running your own program?
You talk about wearing 3 or 4 hats as an assistant to wearing 23 to 24 hats, honestly, here. So it was quite a shift, within weeks. I can't really say months, because it was instant as soon as I got here, honestly. So I felt the change initially when I got to campus, and it obviously got exponentially larger the more and more we got into our fall season. So it was quite a challenge. I'd say from our first year, it wasn't the challenge, so to speak, of going in and competing, for me personally, because, I know the routine of going through a match, going through a warm up, etc. like that. It's everything else. Honestly, that was the biggest challenge, especially taking it on in the capacity that I had to in 2019. So a big challenge for me personally, it was one that I wouldn't trade, because like I tell our kids, and something that I've lived to believe, the good things don't come easy, initially, whether they're short term or long term that you're trying to develop them for. And I know that what experiences that I had personally and that our kids had last year are meant to weather us and make us better.
Prior to coming to Eureka, you were an assistant coach at Adrian College, and your teams had quite a bit of success while you were there. Can you tell me a couple things that you learned from those experiences?
The biggest thing that I took away, honestly, was, finding that passion just to be on the floor every day. The one thing that was a struggle initially, because we ran JV and varsity every year at Adrian College, was there's so many kids that you have to worry about on a regular basis. And my biggest priority was trying to not let some kids fall through the cracks, honestly, regardless of whether they were in our starting lineup, or were the last kid off of a bench for a JV, and I think the one thing that has helped me prepare for this job, and I think looking towards the future, is, you know, everybody has significance, in your program at the end of the day, regardless of whether they're the first one in the door that's helping you set nets up, or they're the one that's helping you clean the trash out of a bus, or a van when you get home from a long road trip. So realizing that there's value that you want to place in kids and give them, a reason to fight for you at the end of the day as much as you want to fight for them. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me ultimately from Adrian.
Where did your interest in volleyball stem from, and how did you decide you wanted to be a coach?
Sure. My sister played when she was younger. Boys volleyball wasn't as big, when I was 12, 13 years old, when she was getting started. So I was lucky that the high school I ended up going to and ultimately coaching at in Indianapolis had a big connection with the men's game already. So I ended up starting to play club volleyball when I was 13. It ended up being 6 years of club, and I played through high school, and after, a few weeks of soul searching really turned into months, while I was a senior. I had a passion for teaching. I actually was a college professor for a couple of years after I graduated from Indiana. And I realized that in between, me tutoring and me teaching full time for 2 years straight, and also coaching high school and club on the side, that I missed the college game, in a way too. So being able to take that passion for teaching and ultimately that passion for learning, back into the college game is something that I'm proud to say that I've done, and now that I've spent a decade, in the college game, in some capacity, whether it's coaching, and even managing, the women's program at Indiana while I was a student, is something that, I'm excited to continue upon, for years to come.
It's mid-June and fall already seems to be creeping up on us. So, what are some things that you're hoping to see come volleyball season?
Well, first and foremost, we got to get on the court. I think the one thing that has me the most anxious, is the separation in training. For us specifically as a program, or all the other programs within our region and our country that have gone without for months now at this point. So I'm anticipating that date, obviously, like you wouldn't believe. So whether it's our first practice in preseason, coming in August, if we're on schedule for a mid-August start date, or it's our first competitions of the year, upstate at Rockford, So I think for me, it's getting us back, in a gym, getting us back learning in a gym. And continuing upon where we left the program off at, from a training perspective last season. So there's a lot of work that's got to be accomplished, I feel like, in a short amount of time. But it's all just theoreticals at this point until we know more concrete plans looking towards fall at this point. So there's a lot I'm excited to check off, as far as the small little victories go. Goal wise, for the team. And I think the more we get closer to that, the more it's going to start to build up. But the kids are definitely excited about the prospect of getting back in a gym.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about, or anything else you want to say to the Red Devil fans out there watching?
The biggest thing, to me right now, is us taking care of ourselves as people. Still that's the biggest priority. And I think as much as it upset me initially that, we lost college training, we lost interacting with our kids and our kids being in the classrooms here at Eureka. The biggest thing that has been valuable to me is not taking moments for granted, anymore. And I think the more that I realize how every opportunity you step on a court, or you step to the baseline to serve has value, I think the more we're going to cherish those moments as people, regardless of whether we're on the court or not. So if anything comes from this pandemic, it's not returning to normal for me. Yes, I want to be in a gym, but I want to be in a gym with people that care about being in the gym at the end of the day and care about being in our campus community, because Eureka is a special place, but trust me, the sky is the limit with how special our place can actually be.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Nick. Good luck with everything.
Thanks for your time, Blake. Have a great week.